Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. This is your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts. And today I'm really excited to say I've got a married couple, which is very unusual for me because I don't really usually have married couples on the show. So this is going to be a great episode where we hear both sides of the story. Their names are Byron and Margaret McKie. They are marriage mentors and podcasters. And today we're going to be talking about how to maintain and strengthen your relationship. So welcome, Byron and Margaret.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. We're very excited.
Excellent. I'm really excited too because I'd like to first of all hear your story, a little bit about yourselves and what got you to where you're at now in terms of what you want to share with the world.
Okay. So we married young. We were best friends, platonic best friends for several years. We met in high school. I actually had a crush on his friend. That's how we met. But for years we were friends. I went away to school. I would come home and we'd spend time together. He had a long-term girlfriend at the time, so we were just friends.
Yeah.
And in 1996, his father passed away. He and his girlfriend broke up, and I came home for Christmas and we were hanging out, and I told him I was getting ready to move back home and asked him if he could help me move. And he said, sure. And that January 97, we moved my things back home and we were inseparable for that point on. And by December of 97, on the 13th, we got married. And on the 20th, we had our son. So at the ages of 22 and 23, life just changed for us completely. Going into it, when we found out that I was pregnant, we sat down and we had a talk. It was a very mature thing to do to be that young, but we had a discussion about whether or not we would continue on in a relationship or if we would just co-parent and continue on as friends. It was a difficult thing. We had some ups and downs coming to that point. But at that point, we made the decision that we were going to be together. And so from then on, that's what we've done. We focus on making sure that our relationship is intact and together, and the other stuff we work through as a team.
Wow.
So fast forward to a few years back, and this journey began with him approaching me.
Yeah. I was watching a episode of the comedian Steve Harvey had a TV show here in the States, and they had married couples on, been married, 20 plus years. And they had a couple that had been married over 50 years. So, they asked the question, how did you guys make it over 50 years being married? And they said communication. And so I was like, in my head, every time I heard that on the TV show, I was like, well, what is communication? Help me figure out how to have that lasting relationship. So, her and I had been toying around with doing some things on social media, making some type of name for ourselves. And I didn't want to get on and talk about, people, talk about entertainers. I didn't want to do anything negative. I wanted it to be meaningful. So when I talked to her about it, and I said, well, let's do a podcast and talk about our marriage and how we survived 24 years at that time. So, and she was like, yeah. Now, to know her, she's an introvert. She doesn't like speaking in public spaces. So I was like, you sure? And, so it took us 2 years to actually do our first episode. As at first she didn't like her. I don't like the way I sound.
Exactly. Yeah. I think we all do that, don't we,
Right,
to ourselves when
right.
we're on
And I
video
think,
or whether we're on just on an
Uh-huh,
audio.
uh-huh.
We
yeah,
always sort of immediately criticize the way we sound.
Right.
and I didn't tell her this, but she's probably the first time hearing this. I don't know if I said it before, but deep down inside, I didn't like the way I sounded. I was like, well, who's going to speak for me? It's going to have to be me. And she's the planner, and I'm the let's just
Doer.
do it type
Yep.
of person. You know what I'm saying? So we toyed around with it. I said, well, all right, let's record ourselves. And then we recorded ourselves sitting in the living room. And then a couple of months later, we had went on a cruise, and I brought the iPad. She had brought some lighting, a ring light. So we had the ring light set up. We were sitting on the couch in our little bunker, and we just recorded. We recorded our first episode. We just talked about us and how we met and everything. Never did anything with it. We watched it, laughed, and then finally, at the end of that same year, we had went on vacation and we were in Las Vegas. And so I said, let's just do it. So set the iPad up, press record, and brought it home. It's like, well, it took us probably what
About a month
about another month to
before
actually
I hit enter and posted it.
post it, made a post on our social media, and
Yep.
the rest is history.
Yep.
Wow, what a journey you've both been on, and I
Mhm.
admire that a lot, because it does take maturity to do what you did at, at such a young age, to have those conversations and decide, which direction you was actually going to go in, because you could have easily, I suppose, at that point decided, you know what, we're just going to co-parent and see how it goes, or you're going to commit. And it's obvious that the love that you've had has endured, and it's been the right decision for you both. So what do you think it takes to actually maintain, but not only maintain, but strengthen your connection in a relationship?
So from the very beginning, like I said, we decided we were going to be together, and that was what we were going to do. And so it took a lot of putting the individual aside sometimes.
Yep.
And thinking, okay, is this really worth what could happen if I continue down this path?
Right.
I was raised as an only child. I'm the only child that my parents had together. I had half siblings that didn't live with me. So I was used to having my way. And so it took a while for me to realize that, for one, you're an adult now, and for two, you can't always get your way. And we always put each other first. So when it came to our children, once it was bedtime, they were down, we made sure that we spent time together, connecting, talking, laughing, and we just honestly, we focused on being each other's friend.
Yep.
That's what we had been, that's what we were used to, and that's what we continued to do, is to nurture that friendship.
I love that, because aren't all strong, lasting, enduring relationships based on that, first and foremost, that foundation of friendship?
Right.
Right.
What about yourself, Byron? What about from your perspective?
Well, oh, sorry. I have our dog come in and she wants attention.
Well, that's fine. It just makes it more authentic. I've got my cats in the background too, so we might hear a cat or two meow in the background.
But for me, like you said, we were friends as teenagers, and for me, I remember, I was young, I was 17, and I thought I had seen the world, even though I probably had a handful of relationships. But there was nobody in my life as authentic as Margaret. And so I remember being 17 years old, making a vow or making a prayer to the creator, and I was like, I don't know what this is I'm speaking, but I would like to make that young lady happy one day. And because when we were get together in our little friend groups and stuff, we were just always drawn to each other. I used to make her laugh on purpose because I used to love to hear her laugh, like I still do today. Just love to hear her laugh and things like that. So imagine a young teenager like, I still got a lot of life to live, but I wouldn't mind living with her. So when she after my dad passed, and I had experienced a little bit of adulthood. My dad passed, lost my relationship. And so when I had that meeting with her and she asked me to help her move, and I was like, if it's not now, it's never.
Mm.
So I have to make this happen. You know what I'm saying? This is the perfect time. So of course, I helped her move, and I don't know if she knew I was setting her up. But that was part of the plan, right? But like she said, we were inseparable, and I just could never imagine being my life with her not being a part of it.
Mhm.
So that drive right there throughout the years just made me focus and say, okay, you know what? If there's something about me that's wrong, I need to work on it. If there's something that I need to discuss with her, she had this hard shell because she grew up, like she said, she grew up as an only child. I grew up as the youngest of 10. So
Wow, really?
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So I was used to, dealing with everybody else's problems or what have you. So, I had a lot of patience. I had a lot of,
And
just
hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
I had the ability to give her grace because I knew what she had been through after we discussed, our past and everything. We knew each other. So really was just, going through the ups and downs and,
Mhm.
like she said, putting ourselves aside to, learn to become one,
Yep.
learn to be there for each other in those dark times, and, understand that, yes, you have to have, if you're in a marriage and you're not fighting about something at some point in time, then something's wrong, you know.
True, that's true. I think we're frightened
Mhm.
sometimes to rock the boat, and actually, it's about
Yeah,
not being frightened to rock the boat because, you shouldn't be in a fearful state in any sort of relationship, should you?
right.
Otherwise,
Right.
that's a
Right.
red flag that it's not healthy. But sometimes, we are going to have differences of opinion, and it's okay
Right.
to rock the boat because that actually is a healthy part of a relationship as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And sometimes you're able to come together and compromise. Sometimes you have to come together and decide to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Um, Thankfully, on those bigger issues where compromise was required or where there was a solution that needed to occur,
Mm.
we were able to move through those things. And like I said, the other stuff we agree to disagree, and it doesn't grow and fester into a problem.
And it's absolutely okay to have that difference of opinion about something. You don't have to agree on everything. It's like, well, I like the color blue. Well, I like the color green. Well, I want you to like the color green. Well, I would never like the color green because it's
Yeah.
like that's your own individuality at the end of the day.
Hmm.
Yes. And also it's about I suppose understanding that it is really very healthy to have those differences of opinion and not necessarily think that you need to not have a voice in your relationship because, as I said earlier, you don't want to be fearful of the repercussions.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. And that's where the idea of friendship kicks in, because there's the foundation there that of course you love this person. You've said vows to each other,
Mm.
but you also like this person. You respect this person, and when you look at it in that way, it helps you to open up and to hear those things and to take other perspectives into consideration. But then, when it's all said and done, you have to look at, okay, is this important enough to continue? Like I said, I had to learn that lesson. Is this important enough? Is this the hill I want to die on?
Yes.
Or can I just let it go and move forward?
Yeah.
And pick your battles because some
Hmm. Hmm.
niggly things, become, like you say, huge arguments.
Right.
They're really minuscule,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
no sweat situations, really, that you know what, do we really need to be arguing about this? So,
Right. Or this is not the true issue, and we need to figure out what is, or we need to address what is, because a lot of times those small things are just covering up the big thing.
Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
So, has there ever been a time, hand on heart, during your relationship where you felt, do I really still want to be in it because you've been through such a rocky period, or have you always been able to sort of have it relatively smooth-ish?
There's we actually shared a story about a time where I think we had been married right around 10 years. Um, so we had two young kids. Um, we actually at the time we had adopted a teenager. She had run away, so she was gone. We had no clue where she was. I was in graduate school, he's working, so we had all this going on. And we both had instances where we turned to someone outside of our marriage as to become like a place of comfort and a place to communicate, not necessarily about each other or our marriage, but just we turned to someone outside of ourselves. And when we got to the place of, okay, what are we going to do? Because this is not acceptable.
Yeah.
I don't think there was ever a time that for me that I considered I'm going to leave my husband for this person that I'm friends with. But I knew that I had to let that relationship go so that my husband wouldn't leave me for one, but
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that we could fix what was really going on. And that was growing pains.
Yeah.
Basically, we had been through so much. We were young. We had grown up with our son, basically, and not knowing how to handle those changes properly. And it's just easier when you have that shiny new toy that you can play with instead of playing with what you have and making sure you appreciate what you
Yeah,
have.
and it's like, I know for me, it was like, this young lady, we shared kind of like an interest, kind of like the same interest. And so we communicated based on that. But, the sneaking around and you growing up, I knew, like I said, I'm the youngest of 10, so I had siblings who had marriages and relationships that didn't work. So, I would be on the brunt end of, a brother at any given time, coming up to the house and being like, hey man, let me use the phone real quick. Like, why you need to use the phone?
Yeah.
And he gets all quiet on the phone. Well, I know he's talking to somebody. His wife is upstairs. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, having that experience. So, you tend to think that stuff is normal to some degree. You know what I'm saying? So having that experience and then, the sneaking around, the lying, it just it weighed on me. You know what I'm saying? Like this is not even really me. So like she said, it wasn't a point of leaving each other. It wasn't even that. I think it was just, and not opening up, not making a decision to open up to her and say, look, I need this from you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? This is what I need from you. And I think that was the biggest lesson we learned
Mm-hmm.
out of all that, to even though we had, the mishaps with the adoptive child, we were raising children, but we still need to keep those lines of communication open and really communicate with each other. So that's what that lesson taught us.
Right.
Over what period of time did that happen then, where you sort of drifted apart from each other but then came back together?
Um, I don't think that time period went more than 6 months total. It was, and looking back,
2 months, if that. I don't know.
looking back, the catalyst for that. So, and this is why it's important to communicate and to ask questions if you need clarification. Um, I was in graduate school, and so I am a teacher, and I was on a provisional certificate until I had all of my credentials in place to get my regular certificate. So in addition to finishing up my degree, I was looking at a huge pay increase. And I said, like I said, I'm only child, between my mom and my grandmother. I didn't know what responsibility was until I had a child of my own. And I looked at him one day, and it was a very casual conversation we were having. It was coming to the end of my program. I'm about to graduate. And I said, for the first time in my life, I'll be able to take care of myself. And so I'm saying that in reference to the fact that I'll have this big pay increase. And he heard I can take care of myself.
Yeah, right. What the heck
Yes.
what the heck do you mean?
It's like
And
that. I don't know if you've read it, but men are from Mars, women are from Venus, isn't it? And how we
Yeah,
receive certain information is
right,
different depending on whether
yes,
you're a man or a woman.
right.
yeah.
And so that was the catalyst that kind of set everything in motion.
And in the reality, I think I had kind of like a fear because, she's a teacher, she's educated. I was a high school graduate. I did 1 year of college and dropped out. So I'm this blue collar worker. So in the back of my mind, I always had this fear, like when she would meet someone that was, a little more emotionally, uh, educationally intelligent than I am, that would kind of woo her away. And so that was kind of like a fear of mine in the back of my mind. So I think when she said that, it was like, I think she might be making some plans to leave me.
Right. But instead of him, asking, well, what did you mean by
Yeah.
that? Or
Even in that moment, I'm like, I didn't say like, what the heck that's supposed to be?
right. He didn't say anything. And so that's when the shift started.
Yeah.
And it was actually on the way to my graduation ceremony, which was about 2.5 hours away. This was like a few months had passed, everything had been exposed on both parts. And for that 2.5 hours, I told him there's no way I'm going to go here with family and friends and graduate and pretend like nothing is wrong. So between here and there, we need to come to some type of an agreement. We need to get this out. And that was probably the longest
Yeah.
longest 2-hour ride, but we had no choice but to get it all out and talk about it. He said something about he had never fully grieved his dad. And for me at the time, when he said that, in the back of my mind, I thought that's just an excuse because it had been so long since his dad had passed. I said, that's just an excuse. But fast forward several years and my mom passed, and I had to go back and apologize to him because I said, I didn't understand that you were still grieving the loss of your dad because I had not lost a parent at that point.
Mm.
And when I lost my mom and realized the shift, because it truly was a shift, and to this day, I feel like a different person. Then I had to apologize to him and I said, I'm sorry because I didn't understand what you meant or what you were going through. And so sometimes we have to put pride aside and go back and say, I'm sorry. And those things, because that's going to help. That helps him trust me more. It lets him know that I am hearing you and that I am taking accountability when I make poor choices.
That's great because quite often we don't make, as I'm speaking from a woman here, a safe space for our men to be vulnerable, do we? Because we either, like you were quite
Right.
reactive, or and he probably was a bit more reluctant then from that point for a little while to
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
actually show up and be vulnerable because you dismissed him in such an offhand way.
Right.
And we don't realize we're doing that quite often because it
Mm-hmm.
takes a lot for guys, doesn't it, to emotionally open up?
Right.
Because they're taught from when they're very young boys to be
Right.
so strong and not show emotion because it's
Right.
seen as a
Right.
weakness.
So that was a big thing. Like you said, we used to tell my daughter, man up. She got upset about something, man up.
Yeah, yeah.
But even with those things like that, society does create this space where men can't be, it's not manly to be
And
vulnerable.
what's funny is, I've always felt comfortable around her. I always felt like I could allow my emotions to come out if I needed to, but still had that little bit of fear because I didn't want, what's this punk doing crying in front of me? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, but I was able to do that and there was no judgment ever. You know what I'm saying? I was able to drop tears in front of her and let her know my true emotions. And so that was, gave us the ability to be able to draw closer as well. You know what I'm saying? So I felt comfortable, letting those feelings out to her.
That's great. I love that because quite often, I do feel that we can be quite hard on the men in our society in terms
Right.
of not giving them that emotional safety to be able to share, any vulnerability or show emotion.
And that's one thing too. I encourage any man, if you don't have even a safe space in your marriage, I encourage any man to at least get some help, see a therapist or life coach or some form of that, because that's also too what helped us, heal on our own too, as we both sought help
Mm-hmm.
and got some therapy, and that helped tremendously as far as did helping us to deal with those emotions. And as well, throughout the years, we also there's an older couple that we went to church with, and we became brothers and sisters to them, and they're still in our lives to this day, and they help, the lady of the couple, she drew to her, and
Mm-hmm.
me and the men, the husband, we drew together. So we had those separate times where we were able to contact them and, hey, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with
Mm-hmm.
that? When we needed to. So having that support outside of us, that helped us tremendously also.
Yeah, because I think sometimes as well, especially more so again for men, because society doesn't make it really sometimes acceptable for men to think it's
Yes.
okay to reach out for help, whereas women, we naturally gravitate to each other, don't we, to
Right.
share our
Right.
problems. And I think I've read or heard somewhere that women speak 7 times more than men in any 24-hour
yes.
period. So we're the talkers, we're the ones that do reach out for
Mm-hmm.
self-help, and that's quite often the case when you look in self-help groups. It's majority women that are in those
Right.
groups because it's always been made easier for us to support each other, whereas not so much for the case for men.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And if your spouse can't be vulnerable and open with you, that leaves the door for someone else to step in and be that safe place. And that's something that I can remember during that time in our lives where I was no longer excited when my husband would call or text me. And that's when I realized that, okay, this has got to stop. This is not right. Like I said, at no point did I think, I'm going to leave him. So if I'm not going anywhere, then I have to fix what's going on while I'm here.
Exactly.
That's great to think that you was thinking like that, if you know what I mean,
Hmm.
because quite often, sometimes we don't know what to say to ourselves when we're giving ourselves advice and self-talk, do we?
Right.
And quite often it can
Right.
lead us down the wrong path.
Yes. And it definitely helps to have, like I said, to have that mentor, that person that, well, if anything, I didn't say anything to them. So I'm letting that person down as well, not just
Hmm.
my spouse. So, it's like having that tough conversation to myself, having that tough conversation with my friend, like, hey man, I did something. And them to be able to say, all right, you was wrong.
Hmm.
And you need to fix your marriage. So you need to do what you need to do. You need to cut that off. And there's actual family members that if I probably went to with that same situation, they probably would told me, well, do what you got to do, young brother.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Right.
it's a case of picking the right sources of help.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I've heard
Making sure that
grown
you surround
men.
yourself around people
Yeah.
whose energy matches yours and where you want to be.
'Cause I've heard grown men say, well, every man has a chick on the side. And I'm like, that ain't how I want to live.
No. Yeah, but we do those things to each other, don't we? And
Hmm.
it's important to make those, like you say, those, I suppose, choices with integrity about who we surround ourselves with and who we get
Right.
support from, so that we
Exactly.
know we're getting, the right sort of support and not something
Hmm.
that's going to ultimately cause chaos and tragically end what potentially obviously has been a good relationship for you both.
Right.
Right. Right.
Exactly. And I knew at the end of the day, I needed my friend and I didn't want to, ruin that relationship
Hmm.
whatsoever, because it was like, regardless, I need her to know that, we're still friends.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day. So, it was important to me to nurture that friendship as well, that relationship as well as, nurture my wife.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It sounds like you've really worked through a hell of a lot on your collective and individual journeys, and I admire that. It's been very interesting and inspiring to listen to be honest with you both. And to obviously go through such a horrible, dark period of time that you describe, and to come through the other end, and it sounds like you're the stronger for it. It's great.
Definitely.
I love that.
Definitely.
Yes.
And we're stronger individually, but our relationship also, that was a turning point in our marriage for us. That was, almost okay, I gotta stay on my toes because,
Yeah.
something could happen to cause a shift again. So that was a turning point for our marriage. And from then on, I think that we worked on making certain that relationship was intact and in place, and that we were operating as a team in everything. And like you said, we had gone through so much with the adoption. My mom passed away, his mom passed away. So as these things happen and we're going through life, there's nothing more comforting than knowing that I have someone who's here with me, not just physically, but emotionally. He's here with me, and I can talk to him. He knows my deepest, darkest secrets. He is definitely the nice one. And so so he knows that because he hears the mean things. But he also makes me want to be a better person. I want him to be proud of me. I want him to I want him to be proud of me. So he makes me want to be a better person. And all of these things, like there was a shift after that. And I think we've grown closer since that.
That's amazing. I love you. I love your story. I really do. So for those audience members that are listening that would like to reach out and connect with you, Byron and Margaret, what's the best contact information you can share?
Okay. So our website is www.beyondidopodcast.com. And from there, we have the podcast, we have our links to socials. We actually co-wrote a book, and we have the link to our book. So the website can connect you to all of those things.
Excellent. Well, it's been a fascinating conversation. Any final words about how you can maintain and strengthen your relationship before we wrap it up?
We definitely promote the idea of, you need to like your partner. Love is great. Love can last, but you have to like that individual.
Mhm.
You have friends and family members that you love, but that doesn't mean you want to be around them 24/7.
That's true.
You need to want to be around them. You need to like them in order to be around them 24/7. So that's what we promote. Love, like over love.
Yep.
Yes, yeah. At least initially, so you've got that really strong foundation as a basis
Right.
to build the
Yes.
love on. Because
Right.
without
Right.
solid foundation, then it's easily able to crumble, isn't it?
Absolutely.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Byron and Margaret. I've really, as I say, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I'd love to invite you on again to have another topic or expand more on this one. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Just let us know.
Yes.
So it just leaves me to say that true love starts with opening our hearts. And until next time, goodbye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Hearts Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group Two Hearts Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.